Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemophilepod.com. A psychedelic odyssey into the fabric of the universe, guided by a filmmaker's immersive, practical experiments that transcend into a deeply hypnotic audio-visual experience of awe and human connection to the natural world. And I don't even think that scratches the surface of this wonderful film, Phenomena. We're joined today by the director of Phenomena, Josef Gatti. Josef, welcome to Cinemophile. There's just so much about the way that you put this film together. You don't have to be a science geek. You don't have to really, there's not a lot that you ask of the audience just to come along for the ride. It does remind me of a film, Koyaanisqatsi, that pulled back the covers on so much of the world that we are familiar with, but we don't quite understand. And this film pulls us into that same realm. And it's such a wonderful journey. We're all familiar in some ways with our connection to the natural world, but the way that you explore this in this film, what was it that inspired you to even pursue this project?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I think being sort of chipping away at this film for such a long time, like the better part of a decade, honestly. So there are so many sort of influences and things that I think I've drawn upon and that have sort of come through in this finished product. But if I could point to some of the few that have inspired me the most, I think, as we talked about, Koyaanisqatsi, and also subsequently Baraka and Samsara, those two, which are related, not the sequels, but are very much in the spirit of. Those were like massive influences on me. I think they sort of showed me that, what documentaries could be. Before those films, I hadn't quite even considered that as a possibility before, and they were like such big inspirations for me. I love cinematography. It's one of my favorite components of filmmaking, and they're just so incredible to look at, not just to listen to. Yeah, those films were, I think, like a really big stylistic influence on me. And I think next to that, another project that I'd have to nod to as being one of the main references for this film is Carl Sagan's Cosmos, the 1980 series. That was like, I remember watching that show, and it's kind of corny and dated now, but I think in the best possible way. And just the way that series brings together sort of science and nature and natural philosophy and puts it together in this sort of epic tale and sort of uses science as a very beautiful way to understand the world. That was a really, really impactful project for me. And I think in a way this was Phenomena became sort of a way for me to sort of explore those ideas for myself that I was finding in that Cosmos series.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I remember how impactful it was at the time it happened. It was screening on PBS, which is about to become an ancient artifact in our country, unfortunately. And just, you're right. And Carl Sagan, the way he was, that sort of very benign way in which he talked about these things, brought him down to a level that we could understand and also be at the same time be awed by what we were watching, which is beautiful.
It's such a fantastic series, and the ideas in it are so broad and sprawling. It just somehow encompasses, all of human history and curiosity and discovery and does it in a way that's sort of awe-inspiring and wondrous. And I was very much trying to channel that feeling through this film.
Well, and in a manner of speaking, there's another Carl Sagan in this film, and that would be your father, Mark.
Yes.
And in the sense of his knowledge, his easy knowledge of what you were about trying to essentially showcase in the film. I love the interaction with you and your dad as you're going through what you wanted to do, and his very sage advice, his understanding of the things that you were trying to accomplish with it. It's a very cool part of the film. And let's talk about your dad, Mark.
Yeah, high school physics teacher. He had always tried to, I guess, encourage curiosity and sort of inspire a passion for science in me and my siblings as well. I don't think it honestly quite for any of us when we were growing up. It wasn't until I sort of got into my early mid 20s that I was sort of on my own sort of journey of, I guess, self-discovery and trying to understand the world, that I sort of found science in a new way. And part of that was amongst sort of watching and digesting like incredible science and content, which was able to sort of reframe it for me, I think. And it was in that moment that I sort of, I guess, came back to it, and Dad was sort of waiting there with open arms, so to speak, and we sort of rekindled over that, I guess. And yeah, he had such a pivotal part in helping me, I guess, put together those first experiments. Dad's not only like really smart and a physics teacher, but he's super handy as well. So in terms of building these practical experiments, especially the first batch of them,
Yeah.
yeah, couldn't have done it without him.
And we're going to get into the substance of the film, but I just one last thing about pulling this together, and that is the fact that it looks like it was shot in a barn or a shed in the back of, some on the back private
Yeah,
property, which is about as low tech as you could imagine, and yet what we see is so unimaginable on some level and
yeah.
spectacular. So I like that. Just there's so many things. There's so many other elements to the film besides what we see in the spectacular footage that you have put together here. But it really makes, in harkening back to a Carl Sagan, kind of humanizing this experience for all of us as well. So
It's an interesting point you make because yeah, you're right. It is just a sort of suburban shed situation, is with out there with all Dad's tools and gadgets and scrap materials. And but honestly, like obviously the approach to the artworks in this film are very sort of high end and hi-fi and psychedelic and transportative. But actually, what we're seeing in the experiments are all quite fundamental, and they're sort of natural phenomena that are kind of quite accessible and are around us all the time. Everything you see is kind of essentially at your fingertips at every moment, which is why the sort of shed scenario kind of, it was just the perfect place to kick off this journey.
I just want to take a moment to remind our listeners that we are speaking with Josef Gatti. He is the director of Phenomena, this fantastic documentary we're talking to him about. It is going to have its world premiere at the True False Film Festival. That's on March 5th at the Blue Note Theater is in Windsor, Missouri. Check that out. And if you happen to be in Europe on March 17th and you're in the vicinity of the CPH DOC's 2026 Film Festival in Copenhagen, Denmark, you can check it out at the Dagmar Theater March 17th. So be looking for this film wherever you are in the world. Well, the substance of the film, the spectacular part of the film, is you going through a series of, I don't know if I call them experiments, but certainly showcasing elements of the world we live in. How would you describe?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they are experiments for sure. They sit somewhere between science and art, I would say,
Mhm.
because while there are sort of scientific principles at work there, I'm very much like I wasn't very scientific in my approach, to be honest. Like I sort of understood what I was doing to a degree. Ultimately, the task was to look into nature and try and record it and just admire its beauty. Essentially, that was the sort of task at hand for each one of these experiments, was trying to produce artworks and imagery that was transcendent, I guess. Does that answer your question, or does that sort of
Yeah, no, it does. It
help?
does. And I want to
Yeah,
amend part of my question. I said world, I mean our universe. I mean
yeah, yeah,
the realm in which we are operating is everything, everything that we could
yeah,
imagine and know about this massive space that we occupy, as well as billions of other planets in this place that we call the universe. And those principles, and you bring to bear some science here and some the elements of the fundamental reactions and the formulas that I think if you spend any time in a science class you would know on some level. All of those things are brought to bear, but as you said, in a beautifully cinematic and entertaining way. What's the first experiment in the film?
In the film, we begin with the light experiment. There's that sort of that prelude, that sort of moody ambient intro, which sort of teases the sound waves experiment.
Yes,
But as
yes.
its first sort of the first main experiment, yeah, we look at the patterns and colors on uh, the bubble surface through
The
light.
bubbles. and sound waves, and that's a huge element in this film is sound, something that's very,
Yeah,
very important to telling the story.
yeah,
And I do want to acknowledge some of your collaborators in that regard. Nils Frahm,
that's
who
right.
does again, just absolutely gorgeous, and then Ryan Lee West, who puts together this amazing score for the film as well. I love beautiful noise, as they call music. When I'm watching a film that spends as much attention and time on getting that right, you've got me from, that is just catnip to me. And also, it fits what we're seeing on screen so well.
Yeah, the music is undoubtedly like one of the integral components for this film. Obviously the artworks are beautiful and stunning on their own, but it's only once you put the music to them that do they sort of take on this sort of this transportative quality. I find also the music really brings out not just the character of what you're seeing, but it also creates a narrative. It has like quite a strong effect in um, actually giving us a beginning, a middle, and an end to each of these experiments.
One of my favorites is the magnetic rock.
Cool. Yeah.
That is so cool. It's so cool. It's so
It's awesome, isn't
otherworldly.
it?
It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that, and then even though it's not visually as compelling as that, the uranium one is kind of a mind-boggling thing for me to kind of comprehend the idea of uranium and its interaction with the world. I mean,
Yeah.
do you want to get into, I
Yeah.
don't know how much detail we want to get into here, but
Yeah.
there's just so many things
Let's
here.
let's talk about it. I'm so happy because I feel so vindicated. The Obviously this project has had a much bigger life before. It started out as short films. It evolved into a short series for the ABC, our public broadcaster here in Australia, taken shape as exhibitions. And for whatever reason, magnetism never fully got the love that I felt it deserved. It was all well received, honestly, but it was never sort of like the star of the show. And I knew in my heart if I found the right combination of, I don't know, elements, the intro, the sort of the sort of, the build into it, I knew it could be one of
Yeah.
the more spectacular pieces of the film. So I'm really happy you say that because magnetism is incredible. For sure, one of the trippiest moments in the film, I think. It's sort of you just can't quite believe what you're looking in that one. Hey, like it's even just the quality of the liquid at that scale is just looks like CGI. The way it moves is just ridiculous. The shapes that it produces, everything about it is truly. I still love watching it
Well,
after all
well,
these years.
I just want to inject, and that is,
Yeah,
it's magnetism and repulsion. Is that the right word? You're those forces, the unseen forces of it is again huge part of it for me. It's yeah,
yeah. Like the liquid somehow takes on the sort of the polarity, the positive and negative charge, and the push and pull, and the sort of shapes that it makes through itself, pressing on itself in various parts is just, yeah, you can imagine like, those forces, that push and pull is, we're obviously seeing it in playing out in a petri dish or a little, in a little
yeah.
plate, but those forces operate sort of in that way all the way down to the atomic scale, which is so crazy to look at.
Well, and I gotta believe they're operating on us as we sit here right now. I
Yeah,
feel like this is an
yeah,
element of the universe. I don't know that we fully comprehend what gravity is yet. I think there's still some elements of doubt about gravity. Well, it feels to me, the untrained guy in the room here, that it feels like there's some version of that in play with the
yeah,
gravity. So I don't know. I just
yeah, yeah.
I'm just spitballing here, but
No, look,
well,
I think that's it's an interesting point, and it's something that I tried to do in this film is just to really get into like the detail of it, like the gravity and magnetism and nuclear, the other one that you touched
yeah.
upon there. They're all like these blew my mind when I first learned about them. They are fundamental forces of nature, meaning they are forces that are just fundamental, and that's it. You sort of just have to accept that they're there. They're rules of nature, and like that's the bottom line. They are there and they do this, and you just have to accept that as sort of a way to explain why things happen the way that they do. And what I sort of in my research and my attempt to sort of try and understand all these things a little better for myself is that gravity really is a force that operates dominantly at the larger scale. This sort of electromagnetic forces operate at this sort of more localized medium scale, so to speak. And the nuclear forces are sort of what hold things together at the very smallest scale. But, and my understanding, again, I'm not like a popular science and popular physics. I can't speak to the sort of the ultra detail of this, but my understanding is that like cutting edge science are attempting at least to sort of unify all these forces into sort of one idea. And I can certainly see that because just from looking at them, they all seem to operate in a very, they kind of have a similar function, just at different scales, which I find really fascinating.
Yeah. If I might sort of inject my, again, non-scientific perspective, there's something elegant about all of these forces that seem, while they're random, some of them are very random in the way that they operate. At the end of the day, they're in service to something of more unified. There is something,
Yeah,
in my opinion, something unifying these forces. What it is, we can speculate, or science will continue to pursue. But
yeah,
but when you break them down like this, it makes it all the more interesting. It makes it all the more hunger to find out. For somebody walking out of this film, walking out of this incredible film phenomena, will wonder about the world they live in, and they will turn to the person next to them, and they will say something like, "How does this happen?" I mean, it's just I can't
yeah.
imagine it's not going to stimulate a lot of conversation and wonder.
That's exactly right. Well, at least I hope that's right, because ultimately the film is an exercise in like, I guess, just observing the beauty of the world. And
Yeah.
while we do sort of need to describe the experiments and walk you through what we're doing so you can really appreciate what you're seeing. It's so much more about experiencing the wonder of the universe as opposed to learning about it. So
Yeah.
you're right in that. I hope to be inspiring conversation and just asking people to think or look different at the world around them, as opposed to sort of coming away with the full understanding of how the universe works.
Well, Joe, you're going to be inspiring conversations beginning here in the United States on March 5th, and that is part of the True False Documentary Festival. March 5th, it'll also be playing on March 6th and March 7th, so that's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And you can go to True False Documentary Film Festival to find out more of the particulars of where the Windsor Auditorium or Big Ragtag or the Blue Note are. Those are the theaters it'll be screening in. I would expect that this is going to have a long run. I don't know how long your festival run will be, but I can't wait for this to get out into the world. And I don't know if you have anybody yet who's offered to distribute this, but this is really a fantastic documentary film. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think starting now, we're hoping to, yeah, sort of be out there for the next 12 months or so,
Okay.
taking it around and introducing it to the world. So
I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for everyone involved in this. Your production people, the people you have as producers, all the things that you need to have in order to make that a good run for you during this period of time. Absolutely. I'm so happy that we were able to have an opportunity to talk about this incredible film phenomena and also to have a chance to talk with you. Thank you so very much, Joseph.
thanks for chatting. And yeah, thanks for watching it. And yeah, I really appreciate it.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.